Hi, welcome back to Carol's Kitchen. Tonight we're going to be doing a fish recipe and a vegetable recipe. And both of the recipes are going to include asparagus. And the reason I selected asparagus tonight is because asparagus is very bountiful and is presently in season. It's a wonderful vegetable to use. It's low calorie and it's good for you. And the two recipes that I chose, the first one is called stuffed flounder with asparagus, and the second one is a chilled asparagus with a yogurt sauce. And both recipes came from Jane Brody's cookbook, which I really recommend. This is an excellent low-fat, low-cholesterol cookbook. She has a lot of good nutrition information in the front, and the recipes are well done. They're easy to follow, and basically the premise is that your diet should be composed of at least 50 to 60% of complex carbohydrates and the rest in the form of protein, and no more than 30% of your calories should come from fat. And the calories from fat should be of the polyunsaturated or monounsaturated type, and this book is really an excellent choice. So if you're out there, there's millions of cookbooks. I would recommend this as a good all-around cookbook. Let's get on to our first recipe tonight, which will be the flounder stuffed with asparagus and then covered with a nice cheese sauce. Now, the cheese sauce will be a low-fat type of cheese, and you can get these cheeses in all of your deli departments. Okay, so let's get started on the first recipe. Okay, we're going to start with our fish recipe, the asparagus stuffed flounder. The first thing we want to do is we want to saute some onions. So I have chopped up one medium-sized onion, and we're going to saute it in 3 teaspoons of margarine. Now, of course, I like to recommend either Promise or Fleischmann's margarine because they have a good polyunsaturated ratio, which just means in plain language that they are a better type of margarine to use. So let's start and saute the onions. We'll put the margarine in, and I have preheated the pan, and I'm going to just raise the heat a little bit, and we're going to just quickly saute the onions. Now once we do that, we're going to take the onions over and we're going to layer them on the fish fillets. We're going to take our asparagus, which I have already steamed, and then we're going to roll them up, and then we're going to make a cheese sauce using a low-fat cheddar cheese. And when you write in for your recipes, I will make recommendations on the types of cheeses to buy, because there are a lot of cheeses out there. Now this will only take a minute or two. You just want to lightly saute the onions. If you don't like onions, you don't have to use them, but they certainly add a little bit of zest to fish, which can be otherwise kind of bland. Okay. This is something you can even prepare maybe the day of in the morning and just bake it off at night. Okay, that's it on the onions. I don't want to go any further than this because we are going to bake this in the oven for 20 minutes. So I think we'll stop that and we'll go and we'll prepare our fish and then our cheese sauce and we'll put it all together. All right, our onions have been sauteed and now we're just going to put the fish together and we're going to make our sauce and bake it. And it's very easy. First, what you want to do is you want to have a nice shallow type baking pan and you want to grease the pan. But rather than adding more calories, what I'm using is Pam. And this is wonderful for people who are on a diet. You can get Pam in butter flavor and also olive oil flavor. And olive oil flavor would be extra really nice, but I don't have that one tonight, but we'll use this one. So what you want to do is you just want to spray the pan a little bit. And that's enough. And that will prevent the fish from sticking. And we're only adding about 4 more calories to the whole recipe. Okay. Now you just take your nice fish fillets that you have washed. Always wash your fish because it may have some little strings or something that you want to discard, a little bit of skin. Wash it in nice cold water. So we take one of the fillets and now we're going to take a little bit of the onion mixture and we're just going to spread a few onions on the fillet, and then we're going to take, now the asparagus is nice fresh asparagus that I had steamed in the microwave for 5 minutes. Don't steam it any more than 5 minutes because it's going to be continuing cooking when we bake it off. So you only want it partially cooked. You cook it ahead of time, put it in the refrigerator and get it chilled. Now we're just going to add some asparagus like this, and you want to lay about 3 across like so, and just kind of roll it up. And we're going to secure this whole business with a toothpick. And it is a little slippery, I can see that. Okay. Actually, I don't even need a toothpick. I think that's fine the way it is. Now that looks very nice. So we're going to proceed and we're going to do all the fish fillets like this with a little bit of onion. And then we're going to add our asparagus. Now this is a smaller piece, so I'll pick some smaller pieces of asparagus. And let's see, okay. And we'll do 3 like that, and it doesn't matter if it sticks out because you want to see the asparagus. And of course the green color adds nice color, so we're making like little bundles of the fish wrapped in asparagus. And we'll continue to do this, and then we'll go over and make our cheese sauce. Okay, now we're back over at the stove and we're going to make our cheese sauce. First we're going to start with a couple of teaspoons of some margarine, because what we're going to do is we're going to make a roux. And a roux is simply margarine, butter, or any kind of fat mixed with flour. Now we don't want to use lard or anything that's bad. We want to use a good margarine, either the Fleischmann's or the Promise. And I'm going to be using the Wonder Flour because it's a flour that doesn't lump. So instead of taking a chance on lumping the flour, we're going to use the Wonder Flour. So what you want to do on the roux is you want to melt the butter down, and you don't want the heat to be too high because you don't want it to burn. And we're going to slowly start adding some of the flour, and we're going to make like a paste. And as you can see, it's thickening up. Okay, I think we'll just add a little bit more flour. Now this is something you're going to have to learn to adjust on your own. Generally speaking, you want equal amounts of butter and flour. But since I've been cooking for a while, I can sort of adjust it myself. But for the recipe, we'll say 2 teaspoons of margarine and 2 teaspoons of flour. Okay, let's bring the heat up a little bit. Now this has bubbled, and this is fine. This is perfect. Now what we want to add to that is we want to add 1 cup of either skim milk or 1% low-fat milk. Because remember, we always want to try to keep these recipes low-fat. So we'll slowly add the milk, and that will bubble right up. And let me tell you, that is warm. Okay. You don't want to add it all at once. You want to add it gradually. Because what we're doing is we're making a white sauce. Okay. There we go. And there's the rest of the milk. So far this is just milk, butter, and flour. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to add our cheese. Now this is a 1/2 cup of cheddar cheese. And this is a low-fat type of cheddar cheese. In order to be considered low-fat, it has to have 20 grams or less of cholesterol per ounce. And this is one that satisfies that requirement. So if you send in for the recipe, I'll tell you which kinds to get. Now we're going to add the cheese, and we're going to let the cheese melt in. And can you keep stirring the whole time because you don't want anything to catch or burn. Okay. Now, to this, we're going to just keep cooking this and stirring this until the cheese melts down. And while that's cooking up, we're going to add also a little bit of ground black pepper, which you know by now that I like a lot. And this will also give it a little color in there. So we'll add, and of course you can add the ground black pepper to taste. And also, for a little added spice, we're going to be adding some cayenne pepper, which is the hot pepper. You don't want to go too much on this because this can be really hot to the taste. But I think that's enough. All right. So you just keep stirring this. And we've made a nice little cheese sauce. And once this cheese is completely melted through, which is almost done, we're just going to pour it over the fish with the asparagus, and we're going to bake it in an oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. There you go. I'd say this is done. So we'll turn that off, and we'll just bring our asparagus over here and our fish. And we did add the toothpicks to hold the whole thing together. And now we're just going to ladle the sauce over everything. The colors really are nice because we have the green, and now we're adding sort of a touch of orange to it. There you go. Okay. That's it. Bake it in the oven, and I don't even think I'm going to cover it. We're just going to bake it as is. 350 degrees, 20 minutes, and we'll be done. Let's go to the next recipe, which is a very simple chilled asparagus recipe made with low-fat yogurt and lots of herbs and spices. And it's something nice to have on a hot day, and it can go with a sandwich, or it can go with a light lunch, or it can go as a side dish with a supper. Now we're going to make our vegetable recipe, which is simply nice chilled asparagus that has been steamed no more than 7 minutes. That's more than enough in the microwave, or you can use a steamer. And now we're going to make a nice yogurt sauce to go over it. And this is really a very refreshing vegetable. And let's take advantage of asparagus right now while it's in season, and it's very bountiful and the prices are good, because the rest of the year asparagus is very high. Okay, we have our asparagus, which I have cooked down, and you want to cut it into pieces, and always utilize the woodier top section of the asparagus and just cut off some of that tough part, because inside is still the good vegetable. So just get rid of some of the tough outer part and peel it, because otherwise you're just wasting half the vegetable. So utilize the bottoms as well as the tops. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're just going to take 8 ounces of plain non-fat yogurt. We're going to put that in the bowl. 8 ounces is 1 container. And just put that in there. There you go. And to that we're just going to be adding a lot of different spices. Now the first thing we want to add is we want to add 1 teaspoon of dried mustard. We'll add 1 teaspoon of dried mustard. Alright. Now the next thing we're going to add is we're going to add some chives. You can buy chives already powdered or dehydrated, but today I bought some nice fresh chives, and if you looked at it you would say it looks almost like grass, but it has a very nice aroma. And we're going to use, the recipe calls for a teaspoon of chives, but I'm going to chop up a whole bunch because chives are really add a nice flavor. So I'll just show you how to chop up a little bit of chives here, and you just want to get them uniform. It's really quite easy. And they're a nice garnish. Actually, we could have put some of the chives on the fish, and that would have been a nice garnish as well. So maybe we should think about doing that next time. Just chop it up. There you go. And you can mince it to however you like it. It doesn't have to be that small. There we go. There we go. Now all we want to do is we want to add that back to the yogurt and the dried mustard. There you go. The chives are in there. And now we're going to add half a teaspoon of tarragon. And I lost my half a teaspoon. Well, we'll do a little bit under on the teaspoon right here. So we'll add a half a teaspoon of tarragon. Tarragon is a very nice herb, and you can use it a lot in fish and poultry cooking. And then we're going to add just a touch, a little bit of sugar. If you don't care for the sugar, you don't have to, but just a teaspoon of sugar, because the non-fat plain yogurt is pretty tart. So we want to get rid of some of that tartness. So we'll add a little bit of sugar on there. And then we'll add a little bit of the cayenne pepper. And then we'll add also some paprika. So let's get this mixed. And we'll add the cayenne pepper, thank you, helper, on the set. And just shake some of this. Remember, this is the hot pepper, so go according to your taste. And we'll also add a little bit of paprika for color. Okay, let's mix this all up. And what we'll do is we'll add the paprika afterwards. Now, what you want to do is you want to chill this whole thing afterwards. Put the sauce on the asparagus, put it in the refrigerator, and chill it well. It will taste much better if it's nice and chilled. So that's it for tonight. Well, let me just show you how we place this on top of the asparagus. Just drizzle it over and give it a try. It's something new, and we do like to use plain non-fat yogurt in a lot of recipes. So just give this a try. Try it once and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. But remember to chill the asparagus nice and cold. There we go. And here's our chilled asparagus, and this is a nice vegetable to have at this time of the year. So thank you, and we'll see you again on Carol's Kitchen. Well, I've been asked by the crew here on Carol's Kitchen to give a little talk about all this nutrition stuff that I've been mentioning tonight and maybe clear up some of the confusion that I've caused. I'm always talking about fats in the diet, and this is what I do with my clients when I sit down and talk to them. I do talk a lot about fat in the diet because actually today that's our #1 concern. People today we do have a great deal of problem with obesity and diabetes today and hypertension, and a lot of these problems could be corrected by a proper diet, watching your weight and watching your calories, and more specifically watching the fat in your diet. Now what you want to do, as I mentioned before, is you don't want to have any more than 30% of your calories coming from fat. And for most people that really doesn't mean much. It means something to people who are in the allied health field or professionals or dietitians or doctors, but the average consumer just doesn't know what that means. So I'll try to explain it a little bit as best as I can. Say for instance you're on a 1,000-calorie diet and you're trying to lose weight. What you want to do is you want to have no more than 30% of your calories coming from fat. So on a 1,000-calorie diet, that would be approximately 300 calories. So the best way you can figure this out is when you go to the store and you're looking at foods, zero in on the grams of fat in the particular food. And let's take, for instance, as an example, a specific food item had 10 grams of fat in it. And the total calorie value of the item was 100 calories. No, we can't do that. That would be absurd. Let's say 200 calories. If you take 10 grams of fat, and if you remember that there are 9 calories for every 1 gram of fat, multiply the 10 by 9, and you get 90 calories of fat in that particular food item. If the food item is 200 calories, then what we're saying is almost half of the calories, because there's 90 calories of fat there, are coming from a fat source. This is probably not a wise choice to pick. Pick a food that has at least 50% or under in fat calories. So just remember, when you're looking at different foods, zero in on grams of fat, multiply by 9, and if you want to, an easy thing is you can just round it off to 10 and multiply and get the calories of fat. And then just figure in your head that you want to have at least 50% of those calories to be under in fat. So that's a simple little method of using fat grams and figuring out how much fat is in your diet. I have here 2 cookbooks, and I did mention Jane Brody's cookbook. This is an excellent resource to have in the house. And also another good cookbook. This is an older version, but this is the American Heart Association cookbook. And these are both 2 excellent cookbooks to use in helping you to cook low-fat recipes. It used to be felt that carbohydrates were the guilty one in gaining weight, but that's not true. What you want to have is you want to have a high carbohydrate diet. You want to have most of your foods, at least 50 to 60% of your intake coming from carbohydrates. Now what are carbohydrates? Those are things like bread and pasta and rice and noodles and cereals. So eat a lot of those things every day. Use low-fat dairy products. Use low-fat cheeses. And stay away from a lot of beef and a lot of pork in your diet. Stick to chicken, fish, turkey, and veal, and eat a lot of pasta. And unknowingly, you will automatically cut down in your calories and you'll have a better diet and you will actually start to lose weight. And so you really don't have to count calories if you know what you're doing and selecting the proper foods. So this is what I wanted to do in hoping to have people understand how to select a better diet. So I hope you start to enjoy some of these recipes, to get some of your own ideas from some of these cookbooks that I mentioned, and enjoy some of these. And remember, it doesn't have to taste bad to be good for you. Okay, enjoy some of these recipes and we'll see you again on Carol's Kitchen.
If you would like a copy of any of the recipes you saw in tonight's Carol's Kitchen, such as recipe number 17, asparagus stuffed flounder, or recipe number 18, chilled asparagus yogurt sauce, please write to Carol's Kitchen, care of Carol Skoronsky, 35 Sorghum Mill Drive, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410. And please remember to include a self-addressed stamped envelope. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you on the next Carol's Kitchen.